Hello everybody and welcome to episode 17 of my tutorial series for Songs of Syx. I'm Icon and today we're going to talk about administration. And if the time allows it, I'm going to fix up some jewelry or weapons. I haven't fully decided yet. Bias is rolling strongly towards weaponry. Now, we have now unlocked 500 people. I did that between this and the last episode. And with your person number 500, you gain the ability to build administrations. This is, as a matter of fact, unlocked by a population count, and it's also the only thing so far in the game that's being unlocked by a population count. You also get a hefty and nice bartering bonus of 20% more, so city is growing richer and richer. Now, what we're going to do next is we're going to build that administration, of course. A administration works very similar like a library. You invest scrolls, you invest people, and you gain administration points, not research points in this regard. So we're going to put this up there, and well, let's see. The administration is not really necessarily anywhere else than your artisans. I'm considering putting it into the vicinity of the scroll makers because that would be a good fit, but I also figured that I might want to have a second library here, so we're just gonna accept that there's going to be quite some holding, and we're going to build up our administration over here. And yeah, I do a pretty big building here, if you might wanna. What the heck is that? Ah, there's a tree. So we gotta remove that. It's a relic from the time before I knew that my populace doesn't care about trees. So the idea here is quite clear. I want to bring up a huge administrational complex because I really feel like we're needing it. As usual, we're going to put not too many tables in this, so we can either go for a capacity of 14 on one table or a capacity of 7 on one long table. I like the idea of these long tables, and therefore let's make it happen. I think we have to put in the pillars now, though. They always reach for squares, and well, never mind. We have to stabilize the building first. And while this will be a quite huge project, it's at the same time really cool to have such a nice frame for that. If you don't like to go for such a huge bill all at once, because that's going to be a heavy, costly building for sure, you can of course go for smaller frames and build smaller workshops like I did here, for example, with the paper makers and the tailors here. We have here a cluster of miniatures. That's also possible, and I don't really see any practical benefits or downsides to either of those methods. In the long run, it really depends on your taste if you want to have a smaller module size, or well, you get the idea. So we're going to put in here more and more of these benches. And for starters, we're going to stop here. Then again, we need carpets and shelves for the sake of efficiency, you know, cozy carpets for your administration people. Let's do something like that, so it doesn't hurt the eye too much. And you can, of course, expand that as you see fit. Right now, I'm just slapping in some extra carpet. No! Thou shalt behave. You know. The shelves just do the same thing. They, wait a sec, are they? Yeah, they are efficiency buildings, so you either go carpet or shelf, whatever you have more of. Okay, so we got a huge building in the making. Let's make it happen. The only thing we need in larger amounts than we got right now is stone and a little bit of furniture, but we're going to get there. So as usual, we're out of wood. You get the you know that picture. We're employing tons of woodworkers, but nothing's coming together. The usual drill. Now, we're going to whip up a bit more knowledge alongside in this episode because I want to build up universities. I feel like administration and university is something that goes very, very well together. And because I'm a lazy bum right now, I'm just going to copy one of my libraries here. We might want to need and amp up our scroll production, but since we have a nice little stockpile here, I'll just sit it out, wait, and see if we actually need it. Let's keep a watchful eye on our food production, you know, don't let that run dry accidentally. And let's fast forward because it's going to take a couple of days until the administration is completed, but that's a regular old business, you know. So let's see. We're also supposed to whip up some extra stone, aren't we? So we got a lot of stone here, and this is one wonderful opportunity to use the holder effectively. So we're going back to the holders, my men. So thanks for all the comments, by the way. You guys were really helpful. So in this scenario here, I'm going to employ a holder for the... Or, well, I'm going to employ, like, 3 of them. So one for stone, one for fabric, and one for furniture. So this way, this is the first time in the series that I really use a holder effectively. The other times you shouldn't have paid too much attention to my fumblings there. So, but this time what happens here is the haulers will bring the necessary materials for this building site. So our builders will have an easy time fetching and allocating the stuff that they'll need. Right now they're just setting up the ground the ground frame, so there's not much for them to use the materials on, but this will change. So let's see. The hunger for wood in our city is just real. So clearly this warehouse does not have enough employees. So let's set that on auto-employ and see what the AI does think that this place will need in terms of employees. Let's do the same thing for, well, the janitors have a very low workload, so we don't need to do anything there. So let's go real fast forward, and let's see what the AI will adjust here. I'm really curious to see that. So we're on 5 already. Meanwhile, the administration complex is getting more and more done. So we're still at 5 employees. Now we're at 6 employees. So the auto-employ does gradually increase the amount of workers until it hits a sweet spot, I guess. Okay. Good enough for me. So we're now definitely waiting for the furniture to get done again. That's always the same thing. But since we can go for a nice fast forwarding here, starving. Dude, you're... Okay. We got to check out what's happening here. Most of the time, if somebody's starving, they are bugged somewhere, and you're trapped. People are trapped. Ah. I cut off their the entrances to their houses. So that was an oversight of mine. You can easily fix that by not being able to build doorways in hindsight. Interesting. I had no clue that this could be an issue. Well, what we're going to do is now we're going to remove a piece here and remove a piece there. Well, let's see. Let's delete these rooms so our subjects aren't dying anymore. Okay, that's a very, very odd occurrence. It should give us a lesson to pay more attention to stuff like these. Well, let's do something out of that. Whoops. Not delete, remove. Let's add in something like that. There. Now let's make a new paper maker in it. So we just use the existing room. And here we go. I think I just needed to checkmark that thing again. So I just outplayed myself, but we're just going to use this as an opportunity and upgrade the paper maker in this regard just accordingly. So as you see here, that was a nice example of what can happen and how to fix it. I'll keep it like that. Let's check back on our administrational complex there. So I hope this place doesn't need furniture too. No, they need furniture too. Okay. So this will take a moment, and I'll be reactivating the video once this is done, because this is just bland waiting time. Alrighty, so we're almost done with the construction process. I took the liberty of setting up another fishery because the food stockpiles started to dwindle, and I wanted to change that. So we finally got the necessary resource, and now they finished the buildings. With that being done, we also can disable the holders here, so let's delete these rooms. We don't need them anymore. But this way, especially if the construction sites are extremely far away from your storage houses, you can easily get stuff done, and the workers from your warehouses will get the job done afterwards. So now we got the administration done, and I wanted to show you a little bit of a fun fact here. The warehouse is still employing. So it is sitting at a employee rate of 17, and it's still rising. So that AI is just adjusting itself accordingly. And sometimes I think this is one of the better places for auto-employ, because it's very hard as a human being to oversee what kind of stress you have. And the method the AI uses ain't the worst one. A slow and gradual approach. So we're going to be able to set up 56 people here. We're going to whip up 10 employees here for now. So we are producing administration points now, and we got a nice huge building to make sure that in the future we can put up more of these, because they are pretty similar to research points. You can't get enough of these, so we definitely want as many as possible. Alrighty, so let's finally talk about the administration for real. You go over here into the world menu, and over there in the upmost left corner, there's this little icon where you see that +3. You click that, and the upmost region is always your home region. So we have now at our disposal no administration points yet. So we have to wait until these are allocated. So let's get back to our city and see what'll happen there. So we gotta wait a bit, and you see here an estimate of how many administration points will be able to be produced here. So 64. You also note that this thing here eats up paper as well, because, no bureaucracy without paper, I guess. But that's what goes without saying. My species is good at this, and there's, again, the tools bonus and the educational bonus. We're going to go into education in a minute as well. So while our administration points are being produced, let's get ourselves towards the university. The university is not really costly to build. You merely need access to cut stone, which we have since quite some time, so no biggie there. The university is a place where your educated citizens go for a stroll and educate themselves. The fun part about that is that this will allow you to put people to more effectiveness. A educated citizen is able to work better, and he's also able to store knowledge. I don't know exactly how this works in detail. I have discovered this only recently, but if I don't misunderstand that, that means your educated citizens increase the maximum amount of knowledge your scribes can produce, because there is a certain capacity that you can't overcome there. So let's see. There's one big issue about these universities. They need these podiums, and as you see here, one tutor can go for 12 students, but we have a bit of an issue here providing the necessary stability for the building this way. As you see here, if we do this like that, the entire thing disappears. So we can't go for our regular method. So let's see how we can pull this through. University is therefore a bit of a more challenging building. Let's see if this pattern does work. No, we have the same issue as before. We need to go for a more narrow placement there. Let's see if that brings us the stability we need. Now this looking good. Alright, as you see here, we finally got some places for the podiums to be. Okay, this is a lackluster design, but you get the idea. I don't want to stress myself now out finding a proper one. I'm sure you will find enough opportunity to make it better than me. So, as you see here, we only need cut stone and a bit of furniture. Cut stone is the heaviest investment there. And practically, I would actually recommend you to build that as quick as you can, burying up the costs, because this is just a very low cost a very low investment with very high returns, because you will receive a lot of goodness out of this building. So there we go. Now you see, you can hear Trent. There's nothing you need to do except for that. They don't need any materials, they just need those employees, and that's that. And that's why I think that universities are really something dirty cheap, and the tech is not that hard to acquire, and it really helps you because it makes your whole city more effective. I'm not sure, I don't think that the universities fall into any account of the populace's fulfillment ratio. I haven't found any. If I have overlooked them, leave me a comment. I'll just take another look, see if I... But, here, education. That's also the... But as you see here, my population is not really influenced in terms of fulfillment. There's nothing here, 0 of 0 points. I guess some species might tick differently in that regard, but what's really interesting here to know is that you have this education level, but you can also indoctrinate your people. So indoctrination is the exact opposite of education. You will give up your education bonus, if I understood that correctly, but you make those people more loyal. So if you are planning to be a real despot, and a real dictator, that's what you need. So let's see if our administration points are cooked. So we have here now I think this should work now, yeah. You see here the total amount of points, and here you see what you can do with these points. It's a little bit much, but I'll quickly explain that. So over here, you see here first how many points you have allocated that's 0 allocated points. Whenever you do something here, you'll allocate more points, and they'll be deducted from your account over there. Here you can manipulate the population. So here you see how much, I think, how much population the race has. I don't know why this number doesn't sum up to 100%. Don't ask me. I have no clue. I really stressed out my brain as hard as I could, but I was unable to find an answer to this question. And here you see that loyalty of that species. Basically, the loyalty goes down the more mean you treat them. Here you can do special actions to a species. You can either elevate them, which costs you 16 administration points and increases the happiness and the growth of that species. Very useful. It's only 16 points, and as you see here, it is influencing not only your city, but the entire region here. So this entire region here is meant with that. And here you can prosecute the faction or the species, so impact their populace negatively. You can exile them, and you can massacre them. The massacre is the costiest approach, and the more things you do in this tab, the costier things grow. So as you see here, the first thing costs 16, and the next elevation would cost already 47. So the more things you do in this area here, the costier things grow. And that's true for everything. As you see here, infrastructure costs now 1 point, and with that activated, it costs 7 points. So the more you invest into administration, the heavier the costs grow. This is now a area where you can adjust the, well, the investments of the region, so to say. You can either invest into infrastructure, which brings more population growth and more carrying capacity for the people. I love that one. Also, you get more production. You can invest into sanitation, increasing health capacity. I'm not sure why that means capacity, but you get the idea. You can invest into education, which lowers the growth a bit, but increases knowledge and increases population. You increase law, which decreases the production quite heavily and the population growth, but it increases loyalty. Very important if you want to go down the dictator route. And entertainment, bad for production, but good for loyalty again, you know. Distraction makes people happy. Definitely don't overlook these things, and I always feel like they are very, very valuable. And again, as you see here, this impacts the entirety of the region, as well as your city. Down here, we see the taxes. Oh, sorry. Here, I skipped that. This is how high the order in the region is, and how high the health in the region is. So you see here right now, there's no investment into sanitation whatsoever. The blue bar here, by the way, is the potential. It turns into green over the passage of time, but this shows how far this bar will rise with the current investment. And this is knowledge. So the amount of knowledge this region stores that can be used in unlocking technology. This is yet again interesting. This is like a further expansion for your libraries. So investing into knowledge is also a pretty tasty thing. But as you see here, after a couple of investments, those points grow more and more costly. Okay, now taxes. Taxes are fun. So you see down here, these are all the products the region can provide for us. The blue bar here shows how much of that stuff the region can provide for us. As somebody stated in the very, very early episodes, I chose a region that has no access to ore, neither to mushrooms, and that's pretty bad. Because mushrooms are something my population would love to have, and we can't plant that here because the biome is wrong. And we can't import it via taxes, because you might have already guessed it. If you turn on the slider here, you'll just get a certain amount of that produce into your city, because that's taxes, you know. We do administration, you pay taxes. And therefore, this is how you can get in income of stuff that you effectively can't really produce here. So the whole area we chose was a nightmare. And the next time you start out picking up a capital, you now know what these taxes slots mean. And picking a region that does not have the resources you want directly, but available as taxes is always very, very sufficient. In this regard, I did a little bit of an oversight. I didn't optimize on that part, but I find it a pretty good example of why you should pay attention to that. So it won't kill us, no worries, but it's going to be bad for us in the long run too. But this is just a tutorial city, so I don't care too much about that. So I allocated some taxes on Scythalon, because Scythalon is hard to get for us, and we need that for other temples. And I'm going to start to allocate taxes on coal. This is wonderful. This allows me to outsource a bit of my coal production easy. So we're also going to put up some fish tax and, well, I could put up some grain tax, but as you see here, we're already at the end of our administrational capacities. Let's keep it like that. The coal tax, mainly because I don't want to amp up my own coal production any further, and you can put up whatever you want here. You see here the availability of that stuff. What's left to mention is that you can also exhaust. If you exhaust an industry, you double the output, but for 2 years it's going to be out of order. This is good if you just need, for some reason, a sudden production boost. I wouldn't know why, but maybe you will know why. Okay, so that's administration in a nutshell. This is a super powerful tool because this allows us to acquire resources we're not producing at all, and it also allows us to get in materials that we need, and it also allows us to bump up our stats here, because all these increases there, the bonuses we have via the administration, they are also happening to our city, and that's just very, very pleasant. And the more administration you put up, of course, the more influence you can take. That's the basics. Of course, you can, in the long run, do more with your region, but as far as I know, administration has its limits there. Feel free to add in more into the comments to let me know if I missed anything. You see here now how many taxes are being allocated, and these things are, as far as I know, simply being moved to your city here. We now have Scythalon. Boom. Just like that. You can do this with all manner of different resources and spread happiness in your city, quench hunger, and all manner of different wonderful things. So this marks also pretty much the point where the series goes into a pause, because I will be unable to continue at this point without studying the game a bit further myself. Military has been changed. I know how the old military worked, but I really need to play around with that before I can make any tutorial statements here. And beyond that, I gotta say, I never came way past 1,000 citizens. So, guys, I know when I have to learn myself, and I'll do that. So, feel free to leave behind this and the other episodes, of course, comments which kind of topics you want to see covered as well. Probably some topics will show up that I can cover more easily and already add in a episode into the series here before the longer break, but we'll see about that. I surely hope that I will be able to expand this series during version 61, because the dev has this nice habit of making your old save files incompatible with new versions, but whatever. What I want to focus on here before I outro this series this episode is, I'm going to start a gameplay series now where I'm going to record all those study things. So if you guys are interested, feel free to follow. The series will air quite soon because it's going to replace this tutorial series, and I'd be super happy if you guys would join me. My plan is to do a city with 2 species in them, and I want to experiment how it works to have 2 different species working hand in hand, and of course, all the other shenanigans, all the stuff that we have explored here, any more practical sense. So feel free to join me there. Feel free to drop me your comments. Like I said, I'm eager to hear from you. Leave me a thumbs up if you enjoyed, and of course, consider subscribing so you won't miss any new stuff from my side. Well, have a wonderful day. We'll see each other in the next episode of this tutorial series. Like, if if this is the last episode on the list right now for you, you now know why it takes some time. If there's just another episode in the playlist right now, you're in the future, and you won't have to wait. So have a good one, and see you soon. Bye bye.